Beyond the boundary, the void between stars had never bothered Captain Ilara Chen. 20 years piloting deep space vessels had taught her to find comfort in emptiness, to embrace the silence that drove others to madness. But as the Horizon Seeker approached the coordinates transmitted by the automated probe 6 months earlier, even she felt a chill crawl up her spine. Dropping out of FTL in 3, 2, 1. Lieutenant Kaplan's voice was steady, but his fingers trembled slightly over the navigation console. The starfield shifted around them as the ship decelerated, reality snapping back into focus. The main view screen adjusted to the ambient light, and there it was, floating against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars, a structure that shouldn't exist. "My God," whispered Dr. Novak, the expedition's lead synorchaeologist. "It's bigger than the probe data suggested." The object, if it could be called that, stretched nearly 8 kilometers across. A latticework of black material that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light, arranged in impossible geometric patterns that hurt the eye if viewed too directly. It rotated slowly, though without any apparent mechanism or purpose. "Are we receiving any signals?" Chen asked, unable to tear her eyes away from the mesmerizing structure. Communications Officer Torres shook her head. "Nothing on standard frequencies." "Wait, there's something. It's not radio. Some kind of quantum fluctuation pattern." She frowned at her readouts. It's almost like it's watching us." "Record everything," Chen ordered, "and maintain distance. No closer than 100,000 kilometers until we understand what we're dealing with." Dr. Novak stepped forward, his excitement palpable. "This is precisely why the Frontier Initiative exists, Captain. This structure is clearly artificial, evidence of an advanced civilization far beyond our current technological capabilities." Chen nodded, but caution tempered her scientific curiosity. "Which is why we proceed carefully. Remember what happened to the Gagarin expedition. No one needed reminding. 3 years ago, humanity's first contact with alien technology had ended with the loss of 37 lives and a ship reduced to atomic particles. The incident had nearly shut down the entire deep space program, would have, if not for the corporate interests that now funded much of humanity's reach for the stars. "Begin passive scans only," Chen ordered. "I want full spectrum analysis, but nothing that could be interpreted as aggressive." For 3 days, they observed. The structure neither moved nor changed, yet sensors indicated power fluctuations within its matrix that defied explanation. On the 4th day, they received the message from Earth Command. "They can't be serious," Chen said, reading the orders twice to be sure. "They want us to send a boarding party. Based on what? We haven't even determined if it's safe to approach." Dr. Novak couldn't conceal his eagerness. "The preliminary data we've sent back has caused quite a stir. The potential technological applications alone could get us all killed." Chen cut in. "This thing is at least 10,000 years old by your own estimate. If its creators wanted to make contact, they've had plenty of time." Torres interrupted, her voice uncertain. "Captain, I think I've deciphered something from the quantum fluctuations. It's repeating a pattern that corresponds to mathematical constants. I believe it's a language." Within hours, the AI translation systems had made enough progress to render a partial message. The words scrolled across the main screen, cryptic and ominous. "Bondariemarker. Containment field. Do not disturb. What SLEP is beyond the newest remain beyond." "A warning," Chen said softly. "It's a damn warning." The message continued. "Your species is young. Return. We end the STRs. HVTUR twice more. The way TGRs while gain you then." "Fascinating," Dr. Novak breathed. "An ancient civilization leaving markers in space, perhaps to guide developing species like ours." Chen wasn't convinced, or to keep us away from something dangerous. The debate might have continued if not for the arrival of the Prometheus, a corporate research vessel dispatched by Nexus Industries, one of the primary funders of the Frontier Initiative. Its commander, Director Calloway, wasted no time asserting authority. "Your discovery concerns have been noted, Captain Chen," he said during their first communication. His smile never reached his eyes. "But the board has invested too much to turn back now. The technological potential here could advance humanity by centuries." "Did you receive the warning message we deciphered?" Chen demanded. "We did. Our linguists have a different interp." Chen knew better than to argue. Corporate interests drove exploration now, and Nexus Industries held considerable influence over Earth Command. "Still," she tried. "Director, with respect, we don't understand this technology. The structure is emitting radiation patterns unlike anything in our records. At minimum, we should establish a quarantine perimeter and conduct further remote studies." Calloway's expression hardened. "Your caution is noted, Captain. However, we're sending a team to make direct contact. Your expertise would be valuable, but not essential." The threat was clear: cooperate or be sidelined. 3 days later, a joint team from both ships approached the structure in a specially modified shuttle. Dr. Novak represented the Horizon Seeker, his scientific curiosity overriding any misgivings. Chen watched from the bridge, a knot of dread tightening in her stomach. "They're approaching the southern vertex," Torres reported. "No reaction from the structure yet." The shuttle maneuvered carefully, scanning for any access point or response. As they drew closer, instruments detected a slight energy buildup within the lattice. "Tell them to pull back," Chen ordered. "Something's happening." Before Torres could relay the warning, a beam of violet light extended from the structure toward the shuttle. It wasn't a weapon, at least not in the conventional sense. Instead of destroying the vessel, it enveloped it, holding it immobile. "We're getting readings from inside the shuttle," Kaplan announced. "Life signs stable, but communication is down." For 30 agonizing minutes, they watched and waited. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the beam retracted. The shuttle remained intact, drifting gently away from the structure. When communications were restored, Dr. Novak's voice came through, strained but exhilarated. "Captain, it's incredible. The structure, it's not just technology. It's alive, in some sense. And it showed us things, images, a history, I think." The shuttle returned, and with it came the first pieces of a puzzle that would change humanity's understanding of the universe. Dr. Novak and the other scientists had experienced what they could only describe as a direct neural interface, a flood of information too vast to process completely. But certain images remained clear: a vastly ancient civilization, far more advanced than humanity, encountering something beyond their understanding. A war fought across multiple star systems. And finally, the construction of boundary markers, massive warning signs placed at the edges of what the builders considered safe space. They were trying to contain something, Dr. Novak explained during the debriefing. Something they couldn't defeat, only imprison. These structures form a network, a barrier that keeps it confined to a specific region of space. And they explicitly warned us not to disturb this barrier, Chen added pointedly. Director Calloway remained unmoved. "The fact that we experienced no negative effects from the contact proves we can safely study this technology. The knowledge transfer alone represents the greatest scientific breakthrough in human history." "There's more," one of the Nexus scientists interjected, her voice betraying her excitement. "The structure's outer layer contains exotic matter configurations that could revolutionize our understanding of faster-than-light travel, if we could extract even a small sample." "Absolutely not," Chen interrupted. "We have explicit warnings against interfering with the structure. Warnings from a civilization that's likely been extinct for millennia," Calloway countered. "Their caution may have been warranted for their time, but humanity has proven remarkably adaptable. What threatened them may pose no danger to us." The debate raged for hours, but the outcome was predetermined. Corporate interests demanded action, and Earth Command, ever dependent on private funding, authorized a limited extraction procedure. Chen's objections were noted and promptly ignored. The following day, a specialized team from the Prometheus approached the structure again, this time with equipment designed to remove a small portion of the exotic material. Chen watched from the Horizon Seeker, her protests officially registered and her conscience clear. As the extraction team positioned their equipment, the structure remained dormant. Laser cutters activated, targeting a junction point in the lattice that scans had identified as non-critical. For a moment, everything seemed to proceed according to plan. Then the structure awakened. Energy surged through the latticework, patterns of light racing along its surface like neural impulses. The team had barely time to report the change before the entire structure began to reconfigure itself, sections sliding and rotating with fluid grace that defied its apparent solidity. "Get them out of there," Chen ordered, though she knew it was too late. A pulse of energy erupted from the structure, not directed at the extraction team, but outward into deep space beyond. A signal, Chen realized with growing horror. They had tripped an alarm. As the extraction shuttle frantically retreated, the structure continued its transformation. Its purpose suddenly, terribly clear. It wasn't merely a warning marker. It was a locked door. And they had just broken the key. The price of defiance. The first attacks came 3 weeks later. Chen had spent those weeks trying to convince Earth Command of the danger, but her warnings were dismissed as excessive caution. The Prometheus had successfully retreated with a small sample of the exotic material, and Director Calloway was being hailed as a visionary. Stock in Nexus Industries had tripled overnight. Then Outpost Theta, humanity's furthest colony in the Ta Ceti system, went silent. The emergency beacon, designed to function even if the main systems failed, transmitted a single data packet before it too was destroyed. The packet contained only 18 seconds of video, a shimmer in space like heat distortion, then darkness spreading across the colony's main viewport. The final frame showed what appeared to be tentacles of pure shadow reaching through the reinforced glass. 2 days later, the mining station at Proxima Centauri suffered the same fate. This time, there were survivors, a supply ship that had been departing when the attack came. Its captain described an entity that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, portions of it visible to human eyes, while other parts remained perceptible only as distortions in nearby space. It consumed the station, the shaken captain reported. Not destroyed, consumed, like it was feeding. Chen was recalled to Earth for an emergency summit. The journey gave her time to study Dr. Novak's notes from the neural interface experienced at the boundary structure. One passage in particular haunted her. They called it the void hunger in their language, an entity from outside conventional space-time that fed on energy in all its forms. It had consumed 17 of their worlds before they managed to contain it within a cordon section of the galaxy, sealed by the boundary markers. They knew they couldn't destroy it, so they became its jailers instead, sacrificing their expansion to ensure it remained trapped. By the time Shen reached Earth, 2 more outposts had been lost. The pattern was clear. The entity was systematically targeting human settlements, working its way inward toward the more populated core worlds. The summit brought together military leaders, scientists, and representatives from the major corporate powers. Director Calloway was noticeably absent, having taken medical leave as public opinion turned against Nexus Industries. "The sample we recovered might be the key to understanding this entity," a Nexus representative insisted. "Our researchers have made significant progress." "Your researchers opened Pandora's box," General Kimura interrupted. "Now we need practical solutions, not more studies." Chen presented her analysis, drawing on both the warning messages and Dr. Novak's interpretation of the neural interface data. "The boundary wasn't just keeping this entity contained," she explained. "It was specifically designed to counteract its nature. The lattice structure generates a field that stabilizes spacetime, preventing the entity from shifting between dimensions as freely as it would otherwise." "Can we recreate this technology?" someone asked. "Not quickly enough," Chen admitted. But there's another option. The ancient civilization couldn't destroy the entity because their technology, as advanced as it was, operated on predictable principles. But human technology follows different paradigms. We might be able to develop a weapon specifically tailored to target this thing's unique composition. The plan that emerged was desperate but offered a slim hope. While Earth's defenses were fortified, Chen would lead a mixed team of military and scientific personnel on an intercept course with the entity, testing various countermeasures developed based on their limited understanding of its nature. 4 days later, the retrofitted battleship Defiance departed Earth orbit, carrying the best minds and weapons humanity could muster. Among them was Dr. Novak, whose insights into the ancient civilization's knowledge would prove invaluable. They weren't alone in their desperation. As news of the threat spread, an unexpected communication arrived from the Arcturian Collective, a non-human civilization with whom humanity had maintained tense but peaceful relations for decades. Your species has awakened something that threatens us all, the Arcturian representative stated. We have observed similar boundary structures in our explorations and heeded their warnings. Now we must cooperate or face extinction together. The Arcturians offered advanced sensor technology capable of tracking the entity's movements across dimensional boundaries, crucial information that human instruments couldn't detect. In return, they requested access to all data regarding the boundary structure and any countermeasures developed. Chen accepted immediately, despite objections from Earth Command about sharing technology with a potential rival. Some threats transcended species competition. With Arcturian sensors installed, the Defiance tracked the entity to the ruins of Outpost Gamma, where it appeared to be absorbing the last traces of energy from the destroyed facility. It's not just consuming, Dr. Novak observed, studying the readings. It's learning. Each installation it devours adds to its understanding of our technology. Chen nodded grimly. Then we need to strike before it becomes too adapted to our methods. The first attempt, a barrage of quantum-destabilized warheads designed to disrupt the entity's multidimensional structure, had little effect. The entity absorbed the energy of the explosions, growing visibly larger in the process. The second attempt utilized focused graviton beams to create localized space-time distortions around the entity, attempting to trap it in a self-contained bubble. This showed more promise, temporarily restricting its movement, but the entity quickly adapted, slipping between the boundaries of the distortion field. After each failed attempt, Chen and her team regrouped, analyzing the results and refining their approach. The Arcturian liaison offered insights from their own scientific traditions, perspectives that often challenged human assumptions about physics. It was during one such discussion that Chen had her epiphany. We've been thinking about this wrong, she realized. We're trying to fight this thing on its own terms. Energy against energy, field against field. But what if we approach it from a completely different angle? The entity fed on energy and matter, existing across multiple dimensions simultaneously. But there was one thing it seemed to avoid: the boundary structure itself. Something about its configuration was fundamentally repellent to the entity's nature. It's not about fighting, Chen said. It's about incompatibility. The boundary creates a state of existence that's incompatible with the entity's nature. Working with the Arcturian scientists, they developed a new approach. Instead of trying to destroy the entity, they would attempt to fundamentally alter the nature of space around it, creating a localized bubble of reality operating on principles the entity couldn't adapt to or consume. The theory was sound, but implementation required an extraordinary power source and precision targeting. It would also require direct engagement. Someone would need to get close enough to deploy the device directly into the entity's core. Chen volunteered without hesitation. This mission was my responsibility from the beginning, she told her objecting crew. And of all of us, I've spent the most time studying both the boundary structure and the entity itself. The final confrontation took place near Jupiter's orbit, where the entity had paused after consuming a research station on Ganymede. The Defiance approached cautiously, sensors tracking the entity's constantly shifting form. Chen boarded a specially modified shuttle, its systems hardened against dimensional distortion and equipped with the reality-altering device, a synthesis of human innovation and Arcturian metaphysics. "Remember," Dr. Novik's voice came through her helmet comm. "The device needs 20 seconds to calibrate to the entity's frequency before activation." 20 seconds inside that thing, Chen replied. "No problem." As she approached, the entity seemed to sense her presence. Tendrils of darkness extended toward the shuttle, probing, curious. Chen maneuvered through them, aiming for what sensors indicated was the densest region of the entity's mass. The moment the tendrils touched the shuttle's hull, reality began to fracture around her. The view screen showed impossible geometries, and Chen felt her mind stretching, trying to comprehend sensations no human brain was designed to process. With iron discipline, she maintained course, plunging the shuttle directly into the heart of the entity. Systems failed in cascading sequence as the entity's presence overwhelmed them. Chen had expected this. The final approach would be manual. As the shuttle penetrated deeper, Chen saw visions, echoes of worlds the entity had consumed, civilizations reduced to memory. Among them were glimpses of the ancient builders, their final moments as they sacrificed themselves to contain what they couldn't destroy. When her instruments indicated she had reached the core, Chen activated the device and started the countdown. 20 seconds had never felt so long. The entity seemed to realize the threat, pressure building around the shuttle as it attempted to crush the intruder. Metal groaned. Hull integrity warnings flashed across dead screens. Chen held firm, watching the countdown on her suit's internal display. 3, 2, 1. The device activated with a silent pulse. There was no explosion, no dramatic burst of energy, just a subtle shift in the fabric of reality around her. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the entity began to shriek. The sound wasn't audible. It was a vibration that transcended normal perception, rattling through dimensions beyond human senses. Around the shuttle, the entity's substance began to crystallize as it encountered space that followed fundamentally different rules than those it required to exist. Chen fired the shuttle's emergency thrusters, fighting to escape as the entity convulsed around her. The Defiance registered the change and moved to assist, extending its shield envelope toward her position. The shuttle emerged from the entity's mass trailing crystallized fragments that shattered into dust upon contacting normal space. Behind her, the entity continued to transform, its fluid nature hardening into brittle structures that could no longer shift between dimensions. Unable to feed, unable to move, the entity began to collapse in on itself. Chen watched from the Defiance as humanity's greatest threat folded into a singularity and vanished, not destroyed, but trapped within a bubble of altered reality that would serve as its new prison. In the aftermath, humanity and the Arcturian collective formalized their alliance. Together, they established a permanent monitoring station near the site of the original boundary structure, which continued its silent vigil despite the damage done. The sample of exotic material extracted by Nexus Industries was surrendered to a joint research initiative, its study proceeding with unprecedented caution and oversight. Director Calloway faced criminal charges for his role in ignoring the warnings, though many recognized that the true culprit was collective hubris. Captain Chen declined promotion to Admiral, choosing instead to lead the newly formed Boundary Exploration Initiative, a program dedicated to locating and studying the ancient warnings left throughout the galaxy, this time with the humility to heed them. In her personal log, one entry stood out. "The ancestors tried to warn us. They left signs we chose to interpret as challenges rather than cautions. Our arrogance nearly cost us everything. As we venture further into the cosmos, we must remember that not every locked door is an invitation to enter. Some barriers exist for reasons we may not initially understand, but must learn to respect. The universe has been here long before us, and its dangers don't care about our ambitions." As the Horizon Seeker embarked on its new mission, the ancient boundary structure shimmered against the backdrop of stars, a reminder that humanity was not the first to face the darkness between worlds, nor would it be the last. But perhaps, with wisdom hard-won through mere extinction, they might prove worthy guardians of the keys their predecessors had left behind.